Mr. Kaki.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have Brett Jelly today will start the presentation on the Downtown Business Improvement Special Service District.
Good morning, Mr. Jelly.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Brett Jelly. I'm the Director of Business Administration for the Department of Public Works. I am in front of you this morning to introduce the public hearing on the Downtown Improvement Special Service District, also known as the DID, proposed services and service charges for 2016. The DID was formed in 2009, and most recently in 2013, the City Council readopted the ordinance establishing the DID through December 31st of 2018. An annual public hearing is required for the City Council to review and approve the district's proposed services and service charges for 2016. This year, $6,038,166 are budgeted to deliver to support the goals of creating a clean, green, and safe downtown Minneapolis. And with that, I would like to introduce Steve Kramer, the President and CEO of the Minneapolis Downtown Council and Minneapolis Downtown Improvement District. We'll give a brief update of the 2016 budget highlights.
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Kramer.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you, Brett, Mr. Kaki. I'll be very brief. I know you've already had a long morning. This is the 8th DID budget that's been an operating plan that's been offered for the City Council's consideration. It represents a 2.4% decrease this year over last year. That really reflects largely a decrease in costs associated with maintenance of the Nicollet Mall, as that mall project is under construction, as you might imagine. I will say that our Budget and Operating Committee did decide to use some of the savings from the mall to also plow back into our organization, some beefing up of internal operations, as well as establishing a new livability team focus, which I think will serve us well in the long run, both for the mall and other areas downtown as we continue to focus on that issue. And both of those investments of some savings from the mall this year were consistent with the new strategic plan that we've adopted and shared with all of you that will help guide our activities of the DID over the next several years. I'd also note with respect to the mall that our staff is working very, very closely with the design team to make sure that as the design is translated into actual construction documents, that the way the mall is built will allow it to be maintained in a highly efficient and cost-effective way over the long run. So we still have even though we've got some cost reductions this year, we still have our eye on what the long-term impact of the new Nicollet Mall, beyond its beneficial effect for downtown and the city, what the effect on the DID budget will be as well. I guess the last thing I would say, and I know there are several people who would like to testify and several staff here as well who might help be able to respond to any questions. Last thing I would say is that this budget reflects the work of a new and bolstered Budget and Operations Committee for the DID. We've changed our bylaws a little bit. We've increased the membership of the Budget and Operations Committee, added property owners, especially from the Warehouse District and the Hennepin Avenue area, given that committee new authority in terms of really establishing this budget as it then comes forward to you for your consideration. And I really appreciate the work that they've done. And I think we're getting really back to a point where property owners downtown, the folks who really pay this bill, are having an appropriate level of input and involvement in creating this budget plan. So with that, Mr. Chairman, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to respond to them, or we will be around if something comes up.
Any questions for the presentation and update? Seeing none, certainly the committee can appreciate the work that you've done to really reinvigorate the committee that you just mentioned. That participation, I think, is critical to the legitimacy of the program. So thank you. Seeing no questions for the presentation, I'll open the public hearing. This is the public hearing regarding the DID. I will go in order. Please state your name and address for the record, starting with Toby Brill.
Good morning, council members, Chairman Reich, Council Member Goodman, Director Kotke. I don't know if Mike Joseph is still in here. Although you have received 2 letters from me, I amended my letter of objection and provided it to you. The letter of objection contains 9 points. I'll address point 1, point 7 through 9. Today happens to be the second day of the Jewish New Year holiday. We request that Director Kotke provide an extension of time for those property owners who observe the holiday from now through September 24th to be granted an opportunity to provide their written objections. I'll move on to point number 7. In the past, both for the Nicollet Mall assessment hearing and here, I've asked that the properties that are considered contributing historic properties of 25,000 square feet, and that's the floor plate, not the gross building area, be granted a waiver or relief from their full DID service charge. In those properties, their service fees represent anywhere from 21 to 25% of their gross real estate taxes, which means that over a period of 4 years, they've effectively paid an additional year of real estate taxes for the DID project. But since they're smaller properties, even if they operate on a sidewalk of the same size as the Retech Center or Wells Fargo's property, it is an unsustainable expense. And I ask that Director Kotke and his staff be directed to re-examine that along with President Kramer. Point number 8, we'd like the DID to publish its calendar of meetings and make them available to the ratepayers, in other words, the upcoming meetings, so that those ratepayers be allowed to participate in the process, bring their suggestions, and for the board to consider them. The final point is that the DID, or that this council direct the DID to provide a copy of its 2015 consultants report provided by PUMA consulting firm of Denver, Colorado, and communicate to the ratepayers which action items the DID board has adopted and will be implementing through which period of time. In general, we've asked the DID several times to reduce its operating expense budget going forward, to work to negotiate more cleverly with its contractors, and we haven't found that to be the case, so we'd ask that the council direct them, and under Director Kotke's responsibility level, to provide a walk down in the expenses that are incurred, because most of the property owners in this area have aggressive and complete 24-hour by 7-day-a-week maintenance crews that address their building properties and the sidewalks out front. Thank you. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Thank you for your points, and we believe we have them for the record. Thank you. Calling Gail Dorfman.
Thank you, Chair Reich and members of the committee, Mr. Kotke. I'm Gail Dorfman, the Executive Director of St. Stephen's Human Services. We're located at 2309 Nicollet Avenue. We're a nonprofit agency that serves single adults and families experiencing homelessness. I am here today with members of our street outreach team to support the DID. 2 weeks ago, there was a story in the New York Times about the busiest fire station in the country. Busiest because they have the job of caring for the unsheltered homeless on the streets of San Francisco. A firefighter said, quote, "You roll out of the station 20 times a day to go see the same chronic inebriates, mentally ill homeless guys. It feels like a Band-Aid response. It's a problem much deeper than firefighters are able to fix." Well, thanks to the leadership of the mayor and council over the years, we've developed a much more appropriate and cost-effective response here in the city of Minneapolis through a unique and nationally recognized public, private, nonprofit, and community response. We're meeting people where they're at in a manner that best meets their needs and the community's needs. Sometimes it warrants a law enforcement response, sometimes a DID response, sometimes a social service response. It's not just a Band-Aid response. We're working together to get people off the streets, into shelter, and ultimately into housing. And when DID and our street outreach team respond, it's far cheaper than paying for a booking, a night in the jail, or a police officer's time. The challenges remain. As you all know, we need a housing solution too, but we're heading in the right direction, ending homelessness every day for people living on our streets. The DID is an important partner in this work. At St. Stephen's Human Services, We urge you to continue support of the DID and this important working and effective partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Steve Kramer, did you have anything to add beyond your update? Okay. Then going down, Mike Kios.
Hello, I'm Inspector Mike Jose from 1st Precinct, 19 North 4th Street in the downtown area. I'm the commander of the 1st Precinct from the police department, and I've been downtown now since January. And I didn't have any idea when I came downtown the extent of the work that DID people in many capacities do downtown. And I'm here supporting them today because we work hand in hand on a lot of issues. Also with St. Stephen's, and it's been very obvious the good work that DID does downtown. When you look at all of their members out on the street, all the ambassadors doing all the cleanup and assisting pedestrians hourly, it's a very good experience for people that come into our city, and it's definitely assists in making people feel comfortable and safe in our downtown area. When you see an ambassador staying on a corner and a police officer staying on a corner, the one that stands out is the ambassador. There's no doubt about it. The way the uniforms they wear, and it's a positive experience for citizens. In addition to that, they run a fusion center inside of our police station, which operates 16 hours a day, and they monitor the camera systems downtown. They assist us when we need to get a message out to businesses in the downtown area, or to security, or to parking ramps. They are the gatekeepers, basically, of our radio system downtown called RadioLink, and they send out messages and receive messages from throughout downtown. So very appreciative of them, and I just wanted to show my support today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and testimony. Heidi Johnston.
Good morning. I'm Heidi Johnson. I'm an assistant city attorney stationed out of City Hall, Suite 210. I'm also a Minneapolis resident in the Armitage neighborhood. I was asked to come and speak in behalf of the DID because of the great work we do with the Minneapolis City Attorney's Office. The Downtown Improvement District's work with the City Attorney's Office allows us to create innovative partnerships and to keep innovating in the criminal justice system. One of the biggest concerns of the Minneapolis City Attorney's Office is addressing livability crimes, and our partnership with the DID enabled us to create the Downtown 100 project. And the Downtown 100 project is a prosecution-based model, but it's more than that. It's a community partnership with St. Stephen's, with the Downtown Improvement District, with other social service providers to address bigger issues. And this is the 5th straight year that the Downtown 100 has seen a 70% reduction, and actually it was 78% in 2014, reduction in recidivism. But it's not just the reduction in recidivism, it's the seeking for innovative responses to criminal justice initiatives. It's not just prosecution, it's how the prosecution can work with social service outreach, it's how the prosecution can work with the businesses in the Downtown Improvement District to address these issues through restorative justice or through other diversion programs. So it's not just about prosecution, it's other models to address bigger issues to create a warm and inviting downtown. It's part of the city's goal of addressing public safety, but it's also part of the city attorney's goal in addressing public safety through prosecution and other initiatives. So we just want to share our support for the Downtown Improvement District because they have been an invaluable partner, and they're also invaluable in enabling these partnerships to expand and allowing collaboration and partnership that's been beneficial to the city attorney's office, and to our social service partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments and testimony. John Sweeney. No? Okay, Tom Hoke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Tom Hoke, and I'm the president of Hennepin Theater Trust, and I am also the chair of the DID board. And I wanted to note that both Amy Wimmer from Hines and John Sweeney from Braven Workshop were here and prepared to speak in support, but things went a little long this morning, so they had other commitments. By the way, our offices are at 615 Hennepin. It really is beyond dispute, I think, that downtown is cleaner, greener, safer, and better as a result of the work of the DID. The DID isn't simply nice to experience. It's a key ingredient to our competitiveness as a world-class city. Offering inviting, walkable streets, lending order, and creating a sense of connection are the hallmarks of our work and the outcomes that make our city just that much more special. I frequently say that we can have the city that we want. The DID is an essential element in helping us get that city. I encourage you to support the resolution you have before you today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Amy Weimer? No. And then Mike Levy. Here. Anyone else wish to come forward and speak? Councilmember Goodman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been a long day. I just want to remind us of the following. The assessment for the DID this year is $6 million, but it's been operating for 8 years. We're talking about just under $50 million of private investment by property owners around the city. You add to that the $25 million assessment that just came down for Nicollet Mall, and we're talking almost $60 million of private investment by property owners in downtown, which probably rivals anything the city on its own could do. So I think we need to pay attention to the fact that the business community is now at the point of carrying more than their fair share for basic infrastructure downtown, both in streets and sewers and sidewalks like Nicollet Mall, but also for cleaning and greening and safety citywide. So they have, under their leadership, really helped our whole city and the visitor experience. Many of you have constituents who come downtown all of the time, and I think we just need to pay attention and be mindful of the fact that there are many, many property owners, some of whom can't really even afford it if they have smaller or historic buildings in the district. They're kind of being swept in with everybody else, and they are contributing to the vitality of our city through the massive amount of private investment in public infrastructure. I think we just need to keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Goodman. I think that very well underscores the partnership that's been forged in Minneapolis that makes Minneapolis different and more competitive than most. Any further commentary? Any further commentary? I will then close the public hearing, and we do have the action before us. And I don't know where I put it. And the action before us is to approve the Downtown Business Special Service District 2016 assessments. Within that, we have a passage resolution that approves the operating plan, which includes the special service and budget estimates for the total amount of $6,038,166 for 2016, approving the service charges and list of services assessments in the total amount stated, and directing the transmittal of the list of services charged to the Hennepin County Auditor, directing the city engineer to proceed with the work as outlined. Any further comments on that series of actions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries. Thank you very much for your participation and commentary. We now move to the special service districts that are listed before us for their 2016 assessments. Director Kaki.
Mr. Chair, Andrew Carlson from our Transportation Maintenance Repair Division will make these presentations.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and council members. My name is Andrew Carlson, Project Manager for Special Service Districts. Continuing with the same theme, today we are here to look at the proposed budgets for the 50th in France, 54th in Lindale, Bloomington Lake, Chicago Lake, East Lake, Lindale Lake, and West Broadway Improvement Special Service Districts, which are seeking approval of their 2016 proposed services and service charges. We met with all these boards back in June to talk with their advisory boards to recommend the services, prepare an estimated budget, review their assessment methodologies for the coming year. And through that, that work has been brought forth as part of the staff report. But what we kind of wanted to do today was highlight some of our newer districts, two of our newer districts in particular, and that would be the 54th in Lindale and West Broadway. And West Broadway has representatives here today to give a short 6-slide presentation on their good works. And again, they're in their first year, so they're 9 months down the road. I think you'll be impressed by the work done so far. But first, just a quick highlight on 54th and Lindale. Now, this is obviously, how do we zoom? It's not going to fit on there. Oh, there we go. Okay. I got some help there. So 54th and Lindale, a much, much smaller district, but again, is doing some pretty amazing things. To put this in perspective, they had an $11,000 budget for this current year. But through their partnership, through working with some of the neighborhood groups, the 4 surrounding neighborhood groups, as well as with a grant from Hennepin County as part of the road reconstruction, they were able to make some significant improvements beyond the street redesign that took place with Lindale Avenue. And you'll see in there quite a bit in terms of the street furniture, matching street furniture. We also took advantage of a Hennepin County grant to co-locate recycling containers with the new decorative trash containers. There are, in addition, there's at least 16 planting beds that we did this year with a total of 768 plants within those. So we're able to work in partnership and leverage some of those outside dollars within these service districts to bring about some real meaningful change that I think benefits the neighborhood. And again, we don't want to overshadow what's taking place in all of our existing districts. They are all doing quite well and are really aggressively addressing a lot of the same basic core functions that we see in all service districts, which is the cleaning and the greening, as well as some of the public safety concerns. So know that while those efforts are taking place, they are done to varying scales throughout the districts based on their budgets. So with that, I'll just note that this lump sum budget cost estimates is $528,300 for 2016, with the breakdown of those budgets spelled out in the staff report for each individual district. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our friends over at West Broadway, and they'll speak about their good works.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Ides. I'm the Executive Director of the West Broadway Business and Area Coalition. We're a nonprofit organization that administers and runs the West Broadway Improvement District. As Andy alluded to, we've only been in operation for 9 months. We were established in 2014. The calendar year 2015 has been our first year of actually operating. Like the Downtown Improvement District, we are a self-managed improvement district. Just wanted to share a few highlights with you today. In the first 9 months, we've had 620 hours of our crew spent up and down the boulevard. That's included 938 pounds of litter being collected and 42 hours of work on graffiti and weed removal. In addition, that staff also makes calls into the city, specifically Public Works. So that's been a key partnership, doing various things along the corridor and making sure that happens. Through this partnership, we've also been able to install 134 banners. So if you haven't been on West Broadway in the last 2 months, you should take a stroll down and check them out. Also have adopted 10 bus shelters in partnership with the Metro Transit and do a periodical newsletter. Something that's exciting that's going to be happening is in October, November, we'll put holiday decorations up, which will be complementing our banners. We'll be doing 64 of those light poles, and that'll be infrastructure that's permanent. That'll be going in for at least the next 5 years. And then finally, and one of the real reasons the organization pushed for the bid is in the first year alone, when we've been able to leverage our budget 3 to 1. So we've actually raised it an additional $1,500, which will be related to bid activities, which is going to be long-term infrastructure improvements along the corridor. Part of that was infrastructure upgrades to lighting on the western end of West Broadway, and also doing some recycling work with Hennepin County. So any questions? Otherwise, thank you.
Any questions? Well, thank you for that update in such short order. So much work has been done. So that's very impressive. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just one final note. We have one new district I wanted to mention. They will part of this will be approving their first year budget. So they will begin providing services on January 1st of 2016, and that's at 50th and France. I also want to mention that'll tie into our next public hearing as well. One final note, we will be back before you next month to seek approval of the budgets for our remaining 8 special service districts.
Thank you very much. So any questions? I will move the, well, first I'll close the public hearing and then move the passage of the resolution supporting the Special Service District's 2016 assessments for the amounts and areas as described in the staff report. Any further discussion? See none, all in favor say aye. Dissenting nay, that carries. And then we'll go to item 4, which is our last public hearing, which is 50th Street West, France Avenue South Parking Facility 2016 assessments. And I believe we have Mr. Carlson again, so you can continue.
All right, continuing. So, by way of a little background, Mr. Chair and council members, this is the 50th in France and 50th Street and France Avenue parking facility, also referred to as the Ewing Municipal Parking Lot, for their operations and maintenance charges for 2014 special assessments. Okay, so we took some time with the staff report here to kind of lay out the changes that have taken place here, and I'll just highlight a few of those points here for you. As in years past, the city actual expenses are recouped via special assessments to benefiting property owners. Unlike in past years, the total actual costs are recouped in a single year for 2014 actual costs. These are now being proposed to be spread out over 3 years, beginning in 2016, and will facilitate the transfer of operations and maintenance of the lot from the Traffic and Parking Division to Transportation Maintenance and Repair Division within Public Works. This is all as requested as part of the establishment of the 50th in France Special Service District, which I previously mentioned. Under this approach, 1/3 of the actual costs are proposed to be assessed in each year for 2016, 17, and 18 on individual property tax statements. Simple interest will be applied. And to put this in some context, here we have a map of the 50th and France Special Service District with the Ewing lot highlighted in purple. There we go. Okay, thank you. So what's being proposed here is that the red area showing the service areas within the 50th and France Special Service District, they will also then take on the maintenance and operations of the Ewing lot starting in January 1st of 2016. But to work through this, that's why we have the staff report here before us today, is because in dealing with those past costs still need to be assigned to the current list of ratepayers. These assessment rates for the properties have been part of the original, have been assessed for this lot since the beginning, since the lot was first created. And that transition is currently what has led to this spreading out of costs over 3 years so that we can mitigate some of those charges to the affected property owners. Any questions?
Any questions for this presentation? Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not a question, but just a comment to my colleagues. I just want to be clear that we're in transition of how assessments used to be done for this municipal lot and trying to dovetail it with new and additional special service district assessments for this broader area. Per discussions with the advisory board and Mr. Carlson and Mr. McLaughlin's help, the 4 parcels that are not currently paying into the Ewing lot assessments will not be assessed these service charges for the costs associated with the lot. So this was part of the promise of the initial establishment of the special service district. This could change in the future, dependent on the initiative and efforts of the Special Service District Advisory Committee, but it is now up to them. I'm in agreement with the action before you today. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Any further commentary? Seeing none, I will move the passage of the necessary resolutions to support the project area as described and the amounts described in the staff report. All in favor say aye. Dissenting nay. That carries, and we've concluded our business. We have a postponement as noted, and our upcoming hearing September 29th regarding sanitary sewer availability charges. Thank you very much for your time, committee. It was a long day, but thank you for your work.